Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Autumn and today we're gonna have a little chat about my writing. It has been quite a while since we have sat down and talked about my writing projects. I believe my last serious dedicated writing vlog or writing video was back in April, I think, and it has been entirely too long and so much has happened with my writing. We just need to talk about it. The last video I posted to talk about my whole writing process was me diving into draft 1 edits of my high fantasy project called Project Ice. I came up with a game plan of how I wanted to read through that manuscript a few times, find the plot holes, figure out how to build bridges over those plot holes, and just really get immersed back into that project. We need to back up a little bit and talk about what has been going on with my writing since April, since that last video, because don't fret, I have, as I almost knocked the camera over, I have all of this done, okay? All of this. Let's just do it again once for fun. I have all this done, all these notes, using what I have of the story and just replotting it, restructuring it. This has everything in it. We're gonna get to this in just a second. So from April to about maybe the end of May, early June, honestly, the summer timeline is all over the place. It's just been hell on wheels. For pretty much a month straight, I had been dedicating a decent amount of time reworking this project, really trying to get resubmerged into the story and figuring out why I was writing this story in the first place. And I'll be honest, I wasn't necessarily struggling. It was just I was so focused on trying to get this manuscript ready or figuring out how to get all the ideas of draft 1 and getting it into a second draft. I spent so much of this time off camera doing all of this stuff. I don't have any footage to show you guys, even just like some b-roll of me. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 clips. If I find them, I'll put them in here. I was just so focused on trying to get as much work done possible with this story. The last thing on my mind was really picking up the camera and updating or talking about it. There was so much with this story that needed fixing. What I did end up doing, this was what I came up with. It took about a month and a half to come up with bridges in the plot holes. I took some characters out, had to merge some characters, figure out the meat of this story. I had this ready. I was kind of good to go, but I wasn't feeling it. There was something about this story that was still missing, and I think it was the heart. I think it was me. I love this story, but the thing is I just felt some type of detachment from it. I honestly don't know what it is, and I don't know if I can pinpoint and say exactly what I think it is or was. I didn't work on this project. In fact, I haven't worked on this project since late May, early June. Stuff happened, the summer happened, all that. With everything that was happening in the summer, really the last thing I was wanting to do was write. I felt so stressed with other things that were happening that anytime I sat down to work on this story, or even a short story that I had a little buddy challenge with Brie Bonomo with, I'll leave that video linked down below because it was super fun. But I had writing and things that I had to do, but I wasn't in the headspace to do it. I would sit down to work on this story and I didn't want to. It was so frustrating because I knew August was coming and school would be here and I wouldn't have the time, and I knew when I was in school I would be wanting to write and then be upset with myself because when I had the time I didn't write. You know, like that whole ridiculous thing that we love to do to ourselves, just self-torture. I had that little friendiversary double challenge, reading challenge, writing challenge with Brie, but I had to push my extension to the end of July because it was awful. And I only went through something like that for a short period of time, but now I can truly see and understand when situations happen that are out of your control. Sometimes writing, or you know, that place of escape, that place of escape, which for me is reading and writing, sometimes they don't give you that sense of comfort anymore, or at least they didn't for me. Well, reading did, but writing didn't. And I think that was the problem, is the last thing I wanted to do was create my own world and get immersed in my own world, and a world that I had already created, I think in 2 years ago in 2022. That was the last thing I wanted. It just wasn't something my mind could really wrap around. And so I spent so much of that time escaping into other work. I spent all of that time reading rather than writing, but I still had a responsibility to breathe. Her and I had agreed that we wanted to do this friendship anniversary and we wanted to write. I couldn't completely abandon writing. I knew I had to just suck it up and get back on the playing field. While I wallowed a little bit in my self-pity and all of those emotions, I knew I eventually had to kick the dust off of my boots and get back out there. In July, I did pen a short story, which I submitted to Havoc, which I have not heard back from them, by the way. So I probably didn't make it, because I think they said if your short story was accepted, they contacted you first, but I haven't heard from them. That short story probably died, but that's okay, because I have revisited that short story after I submitted it, because while I submitted the short story, I still felt like there were some bits and pieces of it that could be tweaked and just made better. So if I ever wanted to submit the short story somewhere else, if and when it got rejected, it was ready to go. In July, that was what happened. That was what I worked on, was that short story. And that short story was thriller, mystery, adventure, and dealt with death. I hadn't stopped thinking about that story, but also just that tone, that atmosphere, and I really enjoyed that. As wild as that sounds, I was more excited to write about a thriller or weird, creepy vibes versus my high fantasy story in an icy world that follows a cursed queen. This was honestly the last thing I wanted to be thinking about or writing about, and I still haven't written. Over the last couple of weeks, I have been working on a new story. Okay, I know you guys are probably so fed up with me starting new projects, but hear me out on this one. With everything that's been going on in my life right now, and with me going back to school, I need things that are going to make me happy. I mean, you should do that for yourself anyways. I know sometimes we have to work on projects that we don't want to work on, or things that we feel like are gonna kill us, or we're slamming our head against the keyboard. I get all of that. But right now, with writing, it needs to be that fun outlet that I can just dump all those feelings. Whatever I need, that can be that outlet. And really, that's what writing has always been for me. You know, it's been that outlet of, I have an idea, I want to run with it, you know, chase it down. Right now, I am just at a point where I cannot sit down and create my own very intricate fantasy world. I just can't do it. I can't do fantasy world building. I mean, I can read them all day long, but right now, that is just not what I need to focus on. I need to focus that energy of creation and that critical thinking for other more important things. Not saying that writing thrillers, psychological thrillers, or anything that's horror or spooky is any less important or uses any less complicated measures. Definitely not saying that. But right now, writing this story that I haven't told you guys anything about brings me joy. Before I tell you about this story that I have now started to work on in my spare time, this idea pretty much kind of came to me in April. I have family that lives out in Utah, and I actually visited, for the first time ever, a resort spa. It was so fun. If you have never visited a resort or a day spa in like the mountains, highly recommend. Where we were and who I was with, I got some pretty wild ideas. I've been thinking about it over the last few months, pretty much since April, and I had jotted down some ideas because I didn't want to forget these ideas. I also thought I wasn't going to be able to work on these ideas or this story for a really long time, so I didn't want to forget it, so I really had just wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it, because I thought it'd be several years before I got to it, not just several months. After that, I had that idea resurface recently, you know, within the last couple of weeks, and I was like, you know, I'm just gonna sit down and just see what happens. So I sat down and just saw what happened, and over the last couple of weeks, I've written about 2,000 or 3,000 words of this story. And so this story that I haven't really told you guys much about, and I don't think I will share too much. Oh my god, there's somebody driving with a refrigerator on their roof. Okay. We're just gonna pretend we didn't see that. This story idea, so it's a psychological thriller and it's going to follow two point of views and it takes place in an isolated hotel. Some of the comp titles that I'm thinking of would be Stephen King's The Shining, No Exit by Taylor Adams, and The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. Those would be the books or the vibes that I am thinking of with this story. I have never attempted to write a novel that's thriller. I've written a few short stories that are thrillers and I absolutely love thrillers. I love reading horror. I love that genre to pieces. So it only made sense that eventually I would write my own thriller. I have been really enjoying the story so far. I have not plotted it out too much, just jotted down some of those ideas that I originally had when I came back from my vacation so I wouldn't forget them, but really this story is something I'm really looking forward to. But I wanted to give this update because I'm switching genres. I guess I'm technically shelving Project Ice for now, along with the other 3 projects I have shelved. But really, I'm not even upset about it. I have my entire life to publish a book. You know, I'm only 27. I am totally at peace with my writing journey and where my life is right now. Well, maybe not with my life, but I am learning to accept the changes that are happening in my life and the changes that's happening with my writing. And I think that's what's most important, is to see and acknowledge those changes and see and acknowledge where we're going, or just knowing that it's okay for change to happen and to just be along for the ride. That is what's gonna be going on right now with everything going on, some exciting things, some not exciting things. I am just allowing myself to find joy in the little things and to find the joy wherever I can. While yeah, I really would love to have the passion and the drive to finish and work on Project Ice, it's just not what's giving me the joy and the fun and the passion. I mean, who's to say in 10 years or in 5 years or next year that spark is gonna light again and I can just jump into that project. But right now, the project that's giving me the fun and the joy is this thriller story, and I don't even have a name. Well, I do have a name for it, but I can't say the name. So we'll just call it Project Thriller for now until I come up with something a little more exciting. I cannot tell you guys how excited I am to be working on this project and really to be trying a new genre. I've only written about 3,000 words of this new novel. I can't really say it's meant for me, but honestly, it truly might be. I don't know if you guys remember, but at the end of last year, early this year, I was working on a cozy fantasy story, and honestly, writing that story was just such a fun time. And I'm almost discovering with my writing if maybe I'm not so much a high fantasy, high stakes author. I'm more of somebody who enjoys writing low stakes, cozy fantasies, but then also psychological thrillers. That might be me. Who knows? Or who knows? Maybe I'm none of that and I'm a romance author. Nothing wrong with that, but maybe I just haven't discovered my love for that genre yet. I guess is pretty much everything I have for this video, for this update, and what you can expect with all of my writing and everything that involves that going forward. While I understand you might be disappointed in not hearing much more about Project Ice, that story, honestly, it's for the best. I want to do that story justice, and I want it to have the love and the care that it deserves. And just at this point in time, I can't give that story that TLC. I have to find another story that will give me that TLC. I hope you guys are gonna stick with me while I try and write my first psychological thriller. So let me know down in the comments below what is your favorite genre to write in, or what is your least favorite genre to write in, and the reasons why. But that'll be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one very soon. Bye.